Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes. What's going on, everyone? I am the Casual Reviewer. I'm the fine line between critic and casual viewer. Now, you're probably seeing a different setting, and that's because I'm in a library, private room right now. I'm currently on my way of just taking one little quick class and then having like a professional studio kind of to work through with the library. So right now I'm just doing it in a private room. And let me start off with some honorable mentions. Now, this year was great for film, in my opinion. There's a lot of movies that I can mention here. I'm just going to do a kind of a rapid fire honorable mention round, just name a few movies that I really like. Overlord, Upgrade, Mid-90s, Love, Simon, The Death of Stalin. There's 5 right there. Game Night, 6. Boom. 6 movies right there that are not in my top 10, unfortunately, but great movies. You definitely should go see them. And I'm going to just say here as well, I didn't put any documentaries in. If I were going to put any in my top 10, I definitely would have put Free Solo, 3 Identical Strangers might have been in here. And then Whitney was really good as well. And yes, I saw how Would You Like to Be My Neighbor? However, it didn't really resonate with me much. I never really watched Mr. Rogers. And, you know, it's a fine documentary, but I wasn't too interested in it. So that's kind of where I'm at as far as documentaries. Now we got all that out of the way. Let's get straight into my number 10 for my top 10 favorite movies of the year. This guy, he spun his way into my number 10 right at the last second. You think you got it? Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Now, mid-90s was in my number 10, but I just thought that with having the cast that it did and putting in multiple Spider-Mans and seeing the trailer and thinking it was going to be far too convoluted, I thought it actually came through really well. It was a really well-made film. It won the Golden Globe for animated series or for animated movie, and I definitely think it deserved it out of everything. Some really good options on that list, but I definitely think this was the best animation film and just in one of the best films of the year, obviously, is my number 10. Number 9, this one is going to be the sequel. Actually, it's one of those instances where I feel the sequel is better than the original, and that's going to be Creed 2. Now, I thought without having Ryan Coogler that it was going to be a little worse, because I thought the first Creed was okay, but I actually enjoyed this one far more. I thought the writing was way better. I loved the revenge aspect of it. I thought that, I don't know his name, but the guy that played Drago's son was fantastic, very menacing. If I was within 5 feet of him, I would apologize without even doing anything. And it's just exactly what he looks like. He's so terrifying. But I just love how they really made you like wanna fight. Like literally after I saw this movie, I was like, bring me out to the desert. Leave me with no water for a week and I can do this. Obviously I would pass out and I'd probably die, but this movie made me want to do it. And if a movie makes you want to die, I think that's pretty good. Number 8. Number 8 is Crazy Rich Asians. Now, this may come to you as a surprise. It was definitely a surprise to the box office. But in my opinion, this is the best pure romantic comedy since Crazy Stupid Love. What I mean by pure romantic comedy is where the romance and the comedy are the forefront and really what drive the movie. So now for a movie like The Big Sick last year, which I do like more than this film, I feel like the drama of that movie kind of drove it more than the romance aspect, more than the comedy aspect, even though they were both also in there. And now romantic comedies, they usually shoehorn some kind of drama into it, some kind of conflict, but in a pure romantic comedy like those Adam Sandler movies, things like that, the forefront is the comedy and the romance and a little less drama. It's just kind of in there to create conflict. And for this one, I think, again, it was the best one since Crazy Stupid Love. My number 7 actually is going to come in as Mission Impossible Fallout MI6. Now, this isn't my favorite movie of the series. I actually watched them all this year right before this one came out, just so I can get that emotional connection. Because, you know, people were telling me you could just watch 4 and 5, or you could just watch 5 and you'll be fine. But for me, in order to get the true emotional connection and really feel out the series, I need to watch the whole thing. And so I watched them all. The third one's still my favorite. Philip Seymour Hoffman was just such a uncorny, real villain in my eyes, and I really loved his character, and I thought it was just so good. And this movie, also fantastic. It's my 7th, so I think it's the 7th best movie of the year. Well, my 7th favorite. The action, the bathroom scene, one of the best scenes this year in general, at all. And honestly, one of my favorite action scenes I've ever seen. That bathroom scene was kick-ass. It was awesome. At number 6, Searching. Now, something this film has done, if you haven't heard of Searching, Searching is one of those films where the whole movie is just basically through like FaceTime or a stream, just basically through a desktop screen. I just think they played it perfectly well. They started off very emotional. It really sucked me in. And the thing about this film, what it does and what makes every mystery film like this good, or any suspense film, is when you're investigating with the investigator. Now, you're following John Woo, who is the father of a missing child, and he's trying to find her, and he's going through all of this information that's all popping up on the screen, and it's causing you to really look in detail, almost like you're investigating with him. And when it can invest you in that way, where you're almost becoming an investigator as the viewer, you're stuck to the screen because you're trying to find clues that can lead you to the missing child. And that's what this movie did so fantastic. I'm not going to say the twist was totally unpredictable, but it was a good twist. And, you know, the ending was great way to end it, wrap it up. It wasn't long at all, or at least it didn't feel that way. I think it was like an hour 40 maybe. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it was a little longer, but it felt like a good pace. And so for that reason, it is my number 6. Number 5. This is breaking my top 5 now, and something that a movie I haven't heard anyone really talk about. I don't think I've heard anyone mention it. Maybe an honorable mention for someone. I can't remember who or if that's even true, but Annihilation. Now, Annihilation, I understand not a lot of people saw, and it was only in the theater for about a week or two because Paramount decided that it was probably best to take this movie straight to Netflix in most countries, and that's just because it was a little too smart, they felt, which I feel sounds condescending in a way, a little ignorant possibly. However, it is a very smart movie, very divisive. It's not for everyone, and it definitely has an underlying meaning, which are the best films, let's be honest. If it has something deeper than just surface level, then that makes it that much better. I mean, Mission Impossibles are great, but when you're going deeper and there's explanations to it and you're trying to figure out what the movie is trying to say, that makes it phenomenal. It's a sci-fi movie, and I'm not even a big fan of sci-fi, but I think it's the perfect mix of the sci-fi and mystery, suspense, and just trying to figure out what's going on. And even if you look up the explanation after you watch it, it makes it that much better if you don't come up with something yourself, and then through that you can come up with your own conclusion as to what the movie's trying to say. And I love that. Number 4, Ready Player One. This was in my top 3 all the way up until the end of the year. Something just knocked it down to number 4. But it's a fantastic movie. And what my biggest pet peeve with this are how many people say they don't go to see it because they're not a fan of video games and they never have been or whatever. You do not need to play video games, nor have you ever needed to play video games to enjoy this movie. Now, yeah, it's kind of cool if you have and you see, you know, there's characters that pop on the screen for like, you know, a second that you see and you're like, oh, that's cool. Or they mention a game and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that game. And that's so cool. But the journey, the adventure, the action, the pace, everything about it is so cool. They even have a scene where they go into a scenario from the movie The Shining. And that's such a cool scene, man. It's such an awesome, unbelievable scene. My advice always is when you watch a movie that you're not sure of, watch the first 20 minutes of it. If you're not sucked in within the first 20 minutes of most movies, then it's probably not for you, unless you're a fan of slow burners. But this movie is not a slow burner by any means. You'll be into it just like that within the first 10 minutes at least. And yeah, so definitely go check it out. Now, cracking into the top 3 of my top 10 favorite movies of this year. That's when you know it's real good, because you know my opinions matter. It's all fact. So if it's in the top 3 of my list, then it's the top 3 of anyone's list. I'm lying and that's not true, but let's get to it. And number 3 is Avengers Infinity War. Now you guys might be shocked because you know how much I love Marvel movies. Maybe you don't, but if you know me, you probably know how much I love these films, and you might be shocked that it's not number 1 and not even number 2. And man, the top 2 are just phenomenal, that's why. But anyway, what's so amazing with this film, just like Civil War, is that you take a bunch of characters and you make a very a very coherent story that makes sense. Thanos is phenomenal, and to end the movie the way that they did, this is just transcendent of superhero films. The villain winning does not happen, and so you can't argue in The Dark Knight it did, maybe with the Joker, but it just doesn't happen, and especially not in Disney-made movies, Marvel movies, anything like that. So for them to do it, even though there is a part 2, which people will argue, a lot of people do not know. Most people that I took to go see this movie with me that do enjoy superhero movies had no idea that there was going to be a second part. It's ballsy, and they know that. They know that not everyone going to see this knows there's going to be a second part. So, for that reason, this is my third favorite film. Number two, Green Book. This movie is so beautiful. The chemistry between Viggo Mortensen and Mahershala Ali. Mahershala Ali took home the supporting actor role for the Golden Globes. I definitely believe he's going to take it home in the Oscars. If not him, possibly Timothée Chalamet if he's considered a supporting actor, which I think he will, which I wouldn't be mad at that. If not him, then Richard E. Grant for Can You Ever Forgive Me, but I don't think he's going to take it home, unfortunately, even though he was good. But Mahershala Ali, phenomenal. Such a good role. I loved him in Moonlight. I definitely think this is his best role, though. Just the chemistry, again, between these two and the journey and how you see them change, not as people, but how they change and how they see other people that at first they thought they would never be friends with. And they're just completely opposite people, but just beautiful friendship that forms. And it is amazing writing. I love it so much. Definitely go check it out if you haven't. And that is Green Book. Now, to top it off, my number one favorite film of the year, I guarantee most of you, 99% of you, if not 100% of you, because I know not a lot of people watch these reviews yet, share this please. Anyway, my plug real quick, and it is Blind Spotting. Blind Spotting, if I were to get any movie on this list on the map for people to know, to hear about, to go see, it is Blind Spotting. Obviously, it's my number one favorite film of the year. Oh man, this covers so much. It covers gentrification. It covers judgment. Someone may see someone else because of the color of their skin, even though they might not be outright racist. Just their kind of the way that they think just automatically because of media and whatever, just how you judge someone based off of what they look and how they go over it so subtly. This movie's so subtle, so sweet. Even the term blind spotting, which you need to watch the movie so that you understand why it's called blind spotting and what the bigger picture is and what the meaning of that is. And the final scene in this movie is definitely my favorite scene I've seen all year. And it's because the way that they go about this movie, the writing, the whole script isn't spoken word, but there are parts that are spoken word in a sense where he kind of gives a flow, and they even say in the movie, man, people listen more when they like the way you talk. So, you know, the way they do that, it's just like you get sucked in by the way that they talk and express themselves, and when they're kind of just going off the top of their head and just freestyling about certain things, and everything has meaning to it, and one thing always leads to another, and the thing from the beginning leads to what happens at the end. Even though they don't sit on what happened at the beginning, they, you know, it kind of over time burns through and then emotionally hits someone so hard that they can't take it anymore, and then they have this outburst. And it is so amazing. It's so funny, so emotionally driving, just sad, heartbreaking, aggravating. There's so much for this film. I cannot recommend it enough. Please go see it. One of my favorite films in a very long time, I have to say. And that, guys, that's my top 10. My top 10 favorite list. Now, I am definitely going to come out with my top 10 least favorite. So please, go check that out. It should be coming out real soon, like right after this probably, unless I come out with the upside review first. But anyway, that was my review for that. If you guys enjoyed it, please leave a like, please share it. Go watch Blindsided. Go watch every movie on this list if you haven't already. And with that being said, I hope you guys have a fantastic day.